Hello, good morning, and welcome to this exciting moment about the best of stories in the world of sports at Sports Central. And my name is Bladen Lukem. Well, Trevor David being part of the mix with me this morning, ready for the talking point, the build-up that comes with it. A part of the conversation today would center around our topical issues in the world of sports, looking at the Paris Masters Open. Well, getting to the crescendo of it in Paris. In the world of tennis, similarly, we'll talk about some of the reports that are coming in regarding the United Cup. The likes of Jack Draper and Emma Raducanu are leading the pack to represent Great Britain. And similarly, in the world of NBA, some games took place early hours of the morning. The likes of Jaylen Brown turning up to the party, a 30-point seater for him again. In the Celtics, as a snapped a Cavaliers winning streak is that conversation. We're going to see lots of details of this. The Carabao Cup took place yesterday. Chelsea Football Club are building up intent despite a red card for Liam Delap, who just returned for Chelsea in 7 minutes, getting 2 yellow cards. Quite something to talk about. Well, Liverpool continues their woes. We'll talk about all of these and more details that have to come with the world of sports. Well, to David, good morning. So good to see you. Funny thing gets to me is the conversation today.
Well, I'd like to return this particular morning to look at what's happening in the world of sport. Point would be the man Yannick Sinner, and the very fact that he knows already that Carlos Alcaraz has been, booted out of the competition. So it looks like the man just has some level of morale boost to go as far as possible in the competition. Yesterday was his first game. Took this particular opponent to the cleaners, and it just looks like this man can certainly win this. Though I'm not actually, predicting at the moment, but it looks likely for him.
It looks likely for Yannick Sinner. Let's begin a conversation from there. Yannick Sinner beginning that bid to retake world #1 at the Paris Open. Well, when you talk about these opportunities and the world of tennis in general, when you realize that all you need to do is to win your games and go top and become a world #1, it's that conversation. Yannick Sinner had to beat the German's Berg in Netherlands Berg in this regard. A 6-4, 6-2 victory. Other games also took place in the course of it. Karen Khachanov beating Brazilian Fonseca. And we're talking about Alex de Minaur getting better of Diallo. And similarly, Bublik getting better of the French international Moutet. Just like Sonego, Lorenzo Sonego also beating Lorenzo Musetti. An Italian all affair. Well, let's start with Yannick Sinner now. The numbers are counting for him. Now he looks at it. If he goes all the way to win this competition, he gets to become the world #1 again. A shot-changing Carlos Alcaraz, who had leapfrogged him earlier within the year. Well, the conversation stands tall. Just a round of 32, but it goes even further.
Well, I think it's quite good for Yannick Sinner to begin the 1,000, Paris Masters with very confident victory. If you look at the all 3 sets, he dominated against Cesar Bex of Netherlands. So that shows you the intention of Yannick Sinner. And the very fact that if you also look at all through the entire duration of the hardcourt event this particular year, he's been absolutely excellent. I do not know whether that's his favorite, but it looks quite, remarkable on hardcourt event. And here is another one. And I think the man would definitely want to go straight to the finals and possibly win it to, reclaim back the world #1, crown before the end of the year. I kind of like the very fact that the ATP Masters 1000 event, particularly this year, looks quite unpredictable. There was actually a time where we had the likes of Alexander Zverev being knocked out at the very first game of a particular tournament in Shanghai, to be very precise. So it might just be quite another case right here. Already we've seen one, which was Carlos Alcaraz in his first game. How far can Yannick Sinner go in this one? I really can't tell, but I feel that this man, with the very fact that he has it at the back of his mind that he would go straight to be a world #1 if he wins this title, I think he's actually up for grabs. Good win for him against Cesar Bex. Cesar Bex, not really a top opponent if you want to look at, Yannick Sinner and Cesar Bex, but we still have the likes of, Alexander Zverev, Daniil Medvedev is still part of the mix. So top seeded players are still right here.
I was going there, looking at those that can challenge Yannick Sinner.
Absolutely.
So now that Carlos Alcaraz isn't available, we're talking about Alexander Zverev got past Argentina and Camilo Ogo, Carabale in this one. We're talking about Daniil Medvedev.
Absolutely.
Well, despite the fact that most times when we talk about Daniil Medvedev, we don't seem so positive about him. But it could be the time for him to show that he's still available as a top tennis player.
I can't really count on Daniil Medvedev at the moment because if you look at the game yesterday, the man had to, progress to the next phase just because the opponent retired due to injury. So it wasn't basically a case of, Daniil Medvedev winning outrightly.
A shoulder injury to Grigor Dimitrov of Bulgaria.
So I do not actually, of course, bank on Daniil Medvedev, maybe being that surprise package. Yes, we already know the conditions surrounding Daniil Medvedev, winning his first, title this year since 2022. So that shows you a pretty long time for Daniil Medvedev to be able to get one, of course, a title to his name after. I look at Alexander Zverev, the German international. I think that's one player that can actually pose a serious threat to Jannik Sinner if he eventually meets him before, the finals of it, which I think the man at the moment, a quality player, one that one could also, rely upon to do giant strides. In as much as we're also looking at this top seed players, maybe getting the better of Jannik Sinner, I can't also rule out the very fact that we've seen not even seeded players get the better of the opponents this particular year. He's happened time and time again.
Not often he gets a hit.
Yeah, not often. Once in a
you can hear against Carlos Alcaraz. Once in a while he gets a hit. But Jannik Sinner, it seems like he's always dominant against players that are lowly rated.
Absolutely. I think his presence, the way he actually hits the ball against lower opponents will also tell you that Jannik Sinner, at the point I think he's also fearless against, opponents that are not top seeded. So I think going into matches against opponents that are not top seeded, they're already having this fear that a former world number one is actually facing them. So they would actually play this particular game with some level of cautiousness. And that's why most times you get to see Jannik Sinner, get them clean slats in over 3 sets. And that's what happened in the early hours of yesterday. But I think Jannik Sinner is in for the taking. He's actually in for this one. Win it and become world number one before we have the ATP finals.
Before we get to have the ATP finals, conversation is all about Jannik Sinner going all the way to win it. Well, let's talk about other games and possibly other superstars that can also be part of a challenge that we're looking at. And now the round of 16 begins, and in the round of 16 we're having Cameron Norrie, who defeated Carlos Alcaraz out of this Paris competition, taking on Zverev. Remember, Zverev got a better of his cousin.
Yeah,
and now
a
swing song still continues for
Absolutely.
him. And but the conversation is, can he get past Cameron Norrie? Currently the match is 2-1 in favor of Zverev. Well, moving further, we're also looking at other games after Daniil Medvedev had a walkover early hours of the morning against Grigor Dimitrov, the Bulgarian international. Felix Auger-Aliassime, ranked number 9, the Canadian international, will be taking on Almeida of Germany. And similarly, Taylor Fritz, a 4th-seeded player at this competition, world number 4 in that regard, taking on Bublik in that direction, who's rated number 13. And in other games, it will be Ben Shelton against Andrei Rublev. Ben Shelton ranked 5th and Rublev 12th. And similarly, Karen Khachanov ranked 10th, takes on Alex de Minaur. Well, a stack of names in that direction: Alex de Minaur, Bublik, Khachanov, Rublev, Ben Shelton. Well, we've talked about that in Medvedev already. Cameron Norrie being part of it. Yeah. Felix Auger-Aliassime and Taylor Fritz. Some top names there that I think can give a challenge to Jannik Sinner.
Well, first of all, I'll start with, Cameron Norrie, facing off, what's his name, Zverev, particularly after Zverev got the better of his cousin. In 3 weeks now, he's been able to get the better of his cousin in 2 matches. Yeah. One in the Shanghai, Masters final, and now in the Paris, Masters.
What a rise for him.
Absolutely. He's been a major rise. The one I'm looking at it at the moment, it looks like it might actually be a name on the lists of many by next year. Yeah. Probably may not be at the very fact that he's on the forefront of winning a major title, but always being there trying to upset some of the big guns can actually be something. If he does that against Cameron Norrie today, that will be another big conversation. Talking about Zverev, maybe many will also be turning attention to Zverev. Look at the way he will progress and how dominant he can actually be in the ATP, by next year particularly. So I'm also looking at Cameron Norrie on the other hand. It is one thing to get the better of a world number 1, which is Carlos Alcaraz. That's a very big win, as a matter of fact. And it comes with a whole lot of momentum for you, moral boost for you, that you can actually get the better of anyone if you've done that against Carlos Alcaraz. So I wouldn't actually expect Cameron Norrie to, fall flat against Zverev as we actually speak. So I expect him to get that particular game to the cleanest. Another player I'm also looking at is Taylor Fritz. Yeah. I was actually, counting players that can actually upset, now Jannik Sinner. And I forget Taylor Fritz is right here. We're talking about world number 4. That's a very big player to look forward to as well. So I also think he's also in the mix with the likes of Alexander Zverev, maybe Daniil Medvedev to be commanding.
He's not won a 1,000 Masters yet.
Yeah, he's not won yet.
He's got in the finals, got in the quarterfinals, semi-finals.
So he's been near success syndrome.
Absolutely. And so this is a big one in Paris for him to get to put his stake on and probably get to win it.
Well, I think I'm actually, of course...
He's not won a Grand Slam yet. He's not a 1,000 Masters yet, but our biggest rank ranked U.S. Tennis player in many, many years.
Yeah.
And now world number 4. He's been around world number 4 for a while.
For a while now. That's basically about the very fact that he's been, getting through quarterfinals, semi-finals, or even finals of major tournaments. That's why we have Taylor Fritz right here. But I think the 1,000 Masters event won't be, absolutely difficult for, Taylor Fritz to, win and then cap off what has been quite a fantastic, a few years for him, starting off from last year up until now. So I think Taylor Fritz has to win something. I do not know whether he will be able to win this one, but I think he's in for the taking. One of the favorites after Carlos Alcaraz was knocked out to challenge for the Paris Masters.
The challenge for the Paris Masters. And now from what we're talking about the United Cup and postulation that are coming for the United Cup has to do with British world number ones. First world number one in Jack Draper and Emma Raducanu, world number one for Britain in the women's category. And we're here, they've confirmed for Great Britain in the lineup in January United Cups in Sydney, Perth, which takes place ahead of Australian Open at the major draw. Could play together in mixed double, although up to 4 more players that can be added to the lineup. Well, big ups, Great Britain now, Jack Draper being world number one for, Great Britain number one. Yeah. Emma Raducanu, after falling to Katie Boulter last year, she's back to a British number one in terms of recent performances. But teaming up, not such a problem. Big superstars in their own right, but the conversation is United Cup. Always going to be a difficult competition because you're going to have the likes of the United States of America and the rest of them featuring in that. Poland also dominant force in that. We're talking about Iga Swiatek teaming up with other teammates from the men's category, the mixed double and all of that taking place in the United Cup.
Well, difficult difficult tournaments rather, I must say, particularly scheduled for next year. I think most times when we get to see competitions like this, it is also usually very difficult to even have the best, players play for their nation.
Lots of rest at the end of the season and starting the start of a new season. Yeah.
January also have the Australian Open, so it might also clash even with the
preparation for the Australian Open. Thing. Because in January you get to see some of those games that are taking place. Some in New Zealand,
Absolutely.
some in Australia. Different kind of tour level, low level, tour level events.
Absolutely.
In preparation for the Australian Open, and the United Cups comes quite early, more like a mock cup that comes early
before a major Grand Slam. But it makes a whole lot of sense. I think my only concern would be the fact that Raducanu hasn't played in this particular tournament before being the United Cup. Jack Draper, played this year in the United Cup, but the man actually, of course, had to retire due to injury even before, the All England side was actually knocked out at some stage in the tournament. So I want to see the level of chemistry between Jack Draper and, of course, Raducanu. For Raducanu, he's been an improved year, not in terms of, not in terms of getting closer to winning the title, but the very fact that he's
a little bit consistent.
Yeah, a little bit consistent, trying to avoid so much injuries has been, of course, one of the mark for her. I want to see it more next year. Can she actually play three tour-level competitions without, complaining about injury? I do not personally know, but I think
probably get to win a trophy final.
I do not. That looks so difficult.
I think it was 2021
US Open.
She was basically a qualifier for the first time we had a qualifier go through all the way to the final to win it. I think she played a final against Lila Fernandez.
Yeah.
Both of them being young superstars being part of that mix. But it's not been the same for Emma Raducanu since then. Look at them, a British number one in their own right. But a conversation gets even for the different countries at the United Cup. But here we have to go on a quick break, and when we're back, the conversation continues. We'll be looking at the world of basketball, the NBA, all the games that have taken place in the world of basketball, and what traction that comes with it. Don't go anywhere. And my name is Blyden Lukim. Exciting times ahead. Whichever David here with me for company going nowhere. And we're talking about the best of stories in the world of football now. And football, here we go. Now let's begin from the world of football, looking at, not football rather, I will be talking about basketball. Forgive me, most time when you go on that quick break, the next is football story. And that's why you're having the liner, typical liner that comes with it. And now let's go to the world of basketball, the NBA, Nigerian Basketball Association. And we'll be talking about the games that took place early hours of the morning and others that have added up the number. Jaylen Brown, in that regard, also scoring a massive 30 point as the Celtic had to snap the Cavaliers a winning streak 125-105. Well, to David, we're talking about the Cavaliers. They've been in splific form so far at the beginning of the season, but it came
Cleveland Cavaliers because they haven't started as a house on fire the way they did last season. Yeah, if you also look at the Eastern Conference, they're still below par in terms of all the teams who are top.
Many would say early days.
Yeah, many will also say early days. Most times you also have a franchise getting some difficult start to life to the season. But it is not totally bad for the Cleveland Cavaliers at the moment. You also look at the opponent, the Boston Celtics, a very difficult side to also play against. Former NBA champions, as a matter of fact. They've also got some level of quality. Despite some traded bills, I think the likes of Porzingis left aside, but they've still gotten Jaylen Brown and the rest of other players who could also pose a major threat. So I think for the Cavs, yeah, it is also important that you play a quality, franchise, because when you also get to meet others that are not so, top enough, you'll also be able to, gather lots of experience to get the best of them. As you feel the Cavs can actually repeat what they did last year, but it should be a slow and steady build-up for them. Difficult start to life this season, but definitely they can actually transcend from there and even get better.
Transiting to get better is that conversation. Let's talk about a man that's been doing that, transiting and getting better game after game. It has to be the man called Cunningham, having a massive 30 point in 10 assists and letting the Pistons pass the Orlando Magics. 135-116 for them. Well, multiple conversation also indicates the Atlanta Hawks also holding off winless Nate 117-112 after Trae Young exit. Well, Trae Young living it didn't matter for Atlanta Hawks. They're saying, come on, we'll still get to do it. And finally, they did it in this particular game. But the sad story would be about the Brooklyn Nets. They've not been in good form, and it keeps continuing for them. They've been winless at the beginning of the season.
Rather unfortunate for the Brooklyn Nets. I could recall last year it was a serious case of injuries for them, especially for their two players. Talk about Zion Williamson being part of it, and of course another certain top, forwards in the name at the moment. Zion Williamson.
Kitty.
Yeah, Kevin also being part of it as well. Zion Williamson played the first 2 games of the season, but the 3rd game he was injured, and it has started off for like what we saw actually last season, and it's not good for the Brooklyn Nets at the moment. I don't know how they will be able to get out of that particular situation they are at the moment. But for the Hawks, Trae Young has been there for, I think, more than 3 seasons at the moment, and they're still back and forth in terms of quality. They haven't added quality players to Trae Young to play alongside with.
3 seasons, more than 5 seasons.
More than 5 seasons. So
it's been there as long as I can remember.
Absolutely.
Trae Young.
It's been more like a case of let's just stay in the league, let's just keep winning games and maybe upsetting the big guns.
Yeah.
They are not major challengers for anything.
You can take anything away from the quality of the player, Trae Young, anyway.
Yeah, individual brilliance over time. You always see Trae Young stepping up.
Always going to be that concern.
Absolutely, as a team, it's just more like, of course, mentioning a particular team. I've forgotten the name now. That what's his name? The Brooklyn Nets are playing now with Zion Williamson not being part of the side. Even if he's with the side, you see them scoring, the individual brilliance scoring 30 points, but it doesn't amass to victory. That's because he doesn't have helpers elsewhere in that particular team. So I think that's what the Hawks are passing through at the moment with Trae Young. Whether he's there or not.
Talk about the sports and Victor Wembanyama. Well, he adds up the number, and at the end of it, nothing really works for them.
They have been so convincing. 4 wins for them. I mean, it hasn't happened this way. The last 2 seasons since he joined the side, we're actually seeing a different narrative for them at the moment. But they have to, just like you said, consistency will be the watchword. It doesn't matter how you start, but how you finish matters.
Well, how you finish gets to be the most important. Was getting a victory over the Kings, 126-113, and we're talking about Buzelis scoring a massive 27 points for the Bulls. The likes of Lavine also having a 30 point, but it wasn't enough. The Mavericks are beating the Pacers 107, a close call over 105. Well, talking about the likes of Williams hitting 20 points, 7 rebounds, and Pascal Siakam for the Pacers, 27 points, 18 rebounds. Not enough to give them victory. It brings back what we're talking about. Big superstars adding up good numbers in games, but to Jazz 136, 134 in that regard, while Joe Holiday having 27 points for them and giving them that victory against Utah Jazz, 32 points from McKinnon, a 32 point bigger scoreline, but still they didn't account for a win for them.
I kind of like the Portland Trail Blazers. Maybe that could be also solely down to the level of trailer deals they've actually done before the build up to the new season. Damian Lillard plays now for the Portland after leaving, Giannis Antetokounmpo and, of course, his former franchise.
Joe Holiday, too.
Joe Holiday also plays for the Portland.
He left
Milwaukee Bucks. So that shows you that they're actually trying to, command big names to play for the side. And I do not know the ambitions for the season, basically, where they can actually meet the playoffs.
The question now comes, what that leaves Milwaukee Bucks with. Because you're talking about some of these key superstars that were part of them now are living and going to some other places, especially the Trailblazers. Then what's left of them, Antetokounmpo and who?
Before Damian Lillard even arrived, it was always the case of Giannis Antetokounmpo doing quite well for them. He's been one of the most prolific players for them in the last 3 years. As a matter of fact, he's been a former back-to-back MVP of the NBA. Yeah. So that shows you the level of quality Giannis has commanded in recent times. But just like we always say, it is a team sport.
Yeah, a tree can make a forest.
Absolutely. So the man looks helpless at the moment with the Milwaukee Bucks. But for the Portland, they're beginning to build lots of quality players. And maybe a few traded deals can actually see them challenge for the NBA title.
Well, we got to see what happens for the Milwaukee Bucks moving forward. And Giannis, the great Nigerian, Giannis entered different stacks for some of them. But the Lakers were able to have a victory. Their recent slump not doing so well, but getting a victory against the Timberwolves. Timberwolves the top side, but Lakers winning in this one 116 and 115. But Lakers winning in this one 116 and 115. And the man Reeves, 28
always gonna be Reeves.
Absolutely.
Well, I do not know.
Raving true.
I exactly do not know what the Lakers are looking for this season. Recall during the arrival of Luka Doncic at the LA Lakers, we talked about the fact that the man really hasn't been consistent in the last 2 seasons. For the LA Lakers' first few games of the season, Luka Doncic right there. So now it is now left with Austin Reeves. Since the start of this season, Austin Reeves has gotten not less than 20 points every single game for the LA Lakers. So what happens if the man is not fit enough, or maybe in a particular game is not doing quite well, what happens for the LA Lakers? Or maybe in a particular game is not doing quite well, what happens for the LA Lakers?
Well, maybe the big boys get to return also for the Lakers.
I just wish they return.
LeBron James and what's his name now?
The man Luka Doncic.
Yeah. Well, before you go on another break, we talk about football stories. The Grizzlies were able to get a better of the Phoenix Suns, 114, 113. Well, one man turned up to the party, Ja Morant. We're really hoping that Ja Morant will keep his head calm.
Absolutely.
This particular season. Last season was a plethora of problems for him. Here and there at some point being arrested for holding a gun and the rest of it. So let's hope this season gets better for Ja Morant. 28 points, 8 rebounds and 7 assists. And the man Williams having 20 points for the Phoenix Suns. Guess what? Your guess is right. We're moving to football stories next. But first, we'll go on a quick break. And when we're back, the conversation continues from the world of football. The Carabao Cup taking center stage and the league games that took place. We'll talk about all the details that comes with it. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Sports Central. And my name is Bladen Hood. David's here with me for company. Now I'm going nowhere. And we have to talk about and conclude this show with the world of football. Remember, football always getting further interesting. After the first break, I made the mistake talking about football introducing. So I'll do a recap of it. Football, here we go. And now let's talk stories beginning from the home scene. And perspective would be about the Super Eagles camp for the 2026 World Cup Africa playoffs. We here in Morocco and we'll open on Sunday, November 10th in Rabat. Well, Trevor David, speculation has been heightened up. Nigeria takes on Gabon the first leg on November 13th. And afterwards, we'll be talking about Cameroon against DR Congo, sealed that same day, November 13th. Later around 8 p.m. Nigerian time, Nigeria's game will be around 5 p.m. Nigerian time. And it's getting quite exciting even further. So the camp would be opening in Rabat, Morocco.
10 days from now? Yes, we should start counting already. And, because it looks like it's far from now. By tomorrow, we're talking about...
Just ended,
yeah, absolutely. So, preparations in top gear. And I do not know how I feel at the moment, because in as much as we're looking at the opponents of Nigeria and say, maybe in terms of quality, like for like, they're not there. But I think at the moment I have to be scared, because this is a one-legged affair. When you're knocked out, when you are defeated, you're knocked out of the playoffs. So Nigeria have to be very careful. And I just like the fact that they're also opening camp quite early for players to arrive and prepare ahead of the tournament. Selection would be key now for the Magnetic Circle Shell. We have to select the right players, the best players for this particular, playoffs. And as a matter of fact, I just feel Nigeria have got the quality. We have to get the better of Gabon and then see what happens in the other game involving Cameroon rather. So it is high time that Nigeria gets some level of adequate preparation before the start of the playoffs.
Well, the picture you saw them standing all stacked and patriotic, and Nigerians, probably you get to see the picture again. Most Nigerians say they're not that patriotic the way they're standing. Let's see the picture again of the Super Eagles.
But in the last game, they played as if they're patriotic. They were very serious with that game.
I look at them all serious and stacked up and putting their hats on their chest and saying, not a rice will come patriot now, but Nigeria, we held it. Well, let's see if they go to hell Nigeria at the playoffs. But the biggest fear for many would be Paramedic Aubameyang being part of the Gabonese.
That's the biggest strength.
Absolutely biggest superstar in there. And Aubameyang has spoken out and said, look, we want to beat Nigeria against when they face Gabon at the playoffs. We want to go to the World Cup. Well, we've seen small nations go to the World Cup, Cape Verde. Nigeria's been lucky. A second chance for them, because when you look at their performances during the qualifiers, they shouldn't be here. But the fact that Eritrea weren't part of this and the rule change affected other teams, I think Burkina Faso suffered the most from it, and that's why Burkina Faso were coming out so angry at we topped in the league and Nigeria gets to qualify at the end of it. So let's see what the African Footballer of the Year, a former African Footballer of the Year, Ademola Lookman and Victor Osimhen will make of this. The biggest challenge for Eric Chell would be the right fullback. Well, Iron is still not available. Theodore now, Brighton Samuel still not available. No update yet. We're not even sure the state of Saïdou Sanusi who got injured and what's really happened. So big challenge there filling those boots.
Yeah, a very major problem I must say now for Eric Sekuchel, especially for the right and the left wing position. Particularly, those are one of the departments where when you get to see synergy with the wingers, it also creates some level of creativity up front for Nigeria. Wow, I do not know who comes in next for them. Right to say Samuel. In terms of quality, he's been injured now. I'm looking at alternatives now for the Super Eagles.
The last game against Benin Republic, it was his name, Benjamin Frederick, who played in that position. Remember
the left back position, Bruno Nyamachi.
Bruno Nyamachi had to come in, not too convincing.
Not too convincing, but he can actually play right there.
Maybe we might have William Troost-Ekong get to return to the starting lineup, and maybe Calvin Bassey gets to play that position.
We just wish
like they did against
it works out well for them. Yeah.
Well, good thing is Senior Jai is available.
Absolutely.
Well, since Utwa is saying absolutely, let's get to talk about our talking point. This one might not be that absolute anyway. It has to be with Nigerian forward Peter Olayinka terminating his contract with Serbian club Red Star Belgrade. And according to the Red Star Belgrade, Olayinka requested to leave the club at the age of 29, linked up with the red and white from Czech club Slavia Praga in 2023. A versatile striker, however, struggled for regular playing time since his arrival. Olayinka has been such a big name to say. Had a few caps with the Super Eagles of Nigeria, but it's not really worked hard, even playing for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. And now in Czech Republic, they're beginning to slow down.
Very unfortunate that in recent times we're actually talking about a few Nigerians terminating their contract mutually with their respective football clubs. That's solely down to the fact that they have been struggling. And one of such names, Peter Olayinka, recently are doing that as well. If you look at his time at Slavia Prague, it was a shining light for Slavia Prague. I could recall being one of those names on the lips of many in the European scene no, 2 seasons back,
Yeah,
rather,
absolutely.
where he scored one of those goals for them. That's how he actually announced himself on the European stage. But since
So
moving,
now he wants to go back to Slavia Prague.
I do not really know, because it also comes at a time where, as a player, you're not playing regularly for the time. If you look at the stats, he scored, I think, 14 goals in
14
over
goals in
40-something
46
matches.
games, yeah.
So that shows you that the level of goals being scored is not going in tandem with the level of appearances. So if it also, makes that do with the fact that he wants to return back to his former club and plays regularly, or even enjoy his game right there, fine, you have to do it. At the age of 29, I mean, you've got nothing to lose. Just enjoy your football. Maybe you never can tell. One good season with your former club can propel in a move to another bigger club right at the moment.
Another conversation. It's all about the age of this player. He's 29 now.
Yeah.
Always going to go through that declining stage, because earlier part of his career, and when he plays at Czech Republic and all of this club, was doing quite well.
Yeah.
Sadly, he couldn't go to the mainstay of European competition.
Yeah.
But now he's beginning to slow down. Age might be catching up with him.
Absolutely. I think gone are those days where we usually have players, whether you're good or not, you actually, make that move overseas, maybe the MLS and even Saudi Pro League or even China. But these days, if you're not quality enough, those leagues won't come for you. So maybe he just has to settle with the ones available
well, because
and play.
it's always about marketing.
Absolutely.
So you have to be a top footballer
before you go
some
there.
of those leagues.
Absolutely.
Even in the MLS, yes, time passed. Players that still moving to MLS, some of them had a high profile.
Absolutely.
Obafemi Martins at the time going to MLS.
He was a quality footballer. He was a quality footballer before moving there.
A big brand to talk about from Nigeria, Obafemi Martins at the time. Well, quickly. Well, this one interests me because the coach of the Flamingos, Nigeria's women under-17 team, who just were knocked out of the World Cup by Italy. A 4-0 it was in favor of Italy against Nigeria. The coach, Bankole Olowokere, has come out to apologize after Flamingos trashing. Well, it seems like he's giving instruction here, not just apologizing. Well, whatever, I do not know what he has to say. A terrible performance. Apology from me not accepted.
Well, he posted on his X handle yesterday, apologizing to Nigerians for the embarrassing run of form for the Flamingos. 1 win in about 4 games, and that was totally unacceptable. 5 goals scored, over 9 conceded, and that shows you how terrible the side was actually all through the entire duration of the competition. So the man is saying, we've learnt our lessons, we have to move on from here. Maybe the next competition we can do better. He didn't say more than that.
Yeah, what lessons have been learnt anyway? They've been playing friendly matches, not so good from the first leg, not so good. I should have learned the lesson before the quarter.
But African teams have been terrible in this competition.
Yeah, it shouldn't be Nigeria.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. They've got some level of pedigree.
Light for Africa and women's football.
Absolutely.
That's the worst performance in age-grade women's football for Nigeria. Well, quickly switch gear and go to Europe and talk about the excitement of the Carabao Cup. Well, the Carabao Cup coming with different angles to it. Well, let's start with Arsenal Football Club aging Brighton Football Club. A quality win for them. Saka scoring for them. And the youngster now, what's the name of the youngster now? Becoming age 15, becoming the youngest player to join Arsenal, to start a match for Arsenal. Is that conversation? I'm trying to get his name again. Skip my mind as quick as possible, but I'm going to get it. Don't worry. Don't worry. At the age of just 15 years, 302 days, Max Dorman, absolutely. Max Dorman having that number. 10 changes for Mikel Arteta. It's been a long while they won the Carabao Cup. Since 1993 is that conversation. So they're back at it and winning momentum. Many African Arsenal fans are saying Mikel Arteta should take this tournament seriously because they don't want the bashing that comes from other clubs. Maybe if they get to win this title, even if they don't win the Premier League, people will say, yeah, at least they won something.
Well, I think some Arsenal fans are divided because I also had some who called on the show on radio saying we shouldn't take the Carabao Cup seriously. And I asked the question, when last did Arsenal even win a cup title?
1993.
So
time ago.
That shows you that you need a club to, of course, also spark moral boost in the team. Yeah,
you can won the Carabao Cup.
You can be doing well.
They won the FA Cup not too long, but the Carabao Cup a long time ago.
Even the FA Cup, that happened, I think, in the second season of Mikel Arteta. Thereafter, they have been trophyless in the last couple of seasons.
Maybe 4 seasons.
Absolutely. So that's a long time. Every single competition Arsenal at the moment, they have to take it seriously. Yeah, they're high-flying side of the Premier League, top of the Premier League table. But how can they sustain that momentum? It's usually a very big question. So thumbs up to Arsenal. Quality in depth in that particular squad is what we're seeing at the moment. And that also culminated to them being quite consistent.
Well, let's talk about a team that doesn't have the quality then. Liverpool Football Club. In the Carabao Cup, the struggle continues, being beaten by Crystal Palace. Well, in the last 80 days, Crystal Palace have beaten Liverpool now 3 times. First it was in the Carabao Cup, getting that,
the finals?
Yeah, the finals
last season.
Getting that victory. Or the Carabao Cup, I think the FA Cup,
the FA Cup and then the Community Shield.
Victory. And then the Community Shield, and now this season, well, I think it was the Community Shield rather, and now this season they've beaten Liverpool in the Premier League and now beating them in the Carabao Cup. So Community Shield, the Premier League, and in the Carabao Cup, a good performance for Crystal Palace. They're the holders of the FA Cup in that direction. But the conversation was still spanned what a struggle is for Liverpool. In the last 7 matches, they have 6 losses. Up next to David for them, because Arne Slot doesn't find a solution. He came out complaining.
He's been giving excuses. Those are flimsy excuses.
Having better players and all of that. Now he's talking about the quality of players he's got, and it doesn't make sense to many Liverpool fans. But the conversation is up next in the next 2 weeks and would be against Aston Villa, inform Aston Villa. After Aston Villa for Liverpool, it would be against Real Madrid. And after Real Madrid, it would be Manchester City. So the wars might just continue for Arne Slot.
It might continue because Aston Villa got the better Manchester City in the English Premier League last weekend. Yeah. So that's a very big game to look forward to. I still do not understand why, Arne Slot comes out with flimsy excuses. Yesterday, I was talking about trying to rest players, trying to avoid what happened to Alexander Isak and all of that. Anyway. Even if Liverpool would have actually played with their regular starters, there's every possibility Crystal Palace would have actually bashed them.
Just 4 key players not being available. I mean, Mo Salah's not been playing well.
Virgil van Dijk not being part of it as well.
Recently not doing so well. Fran Vitz not doing so well. Isak not doing so well. So what are the excuses?
I mean, if Manchester United can go to Anfield and get 3 points, is it Crystal Palace?
When it comes from a Manchester United fan, what can I say? Right stakeholder, rather threshold stake anyway at Manchester United. Erling Haaland has been doing the magic with Manchester City as the Richard Carabao Cup quarters, coming from behind to have a victory. The man, Czech, also scoring in that regard.
Returning from injury.
Absolutely. Beating Swansea City. Well, Liam Delap being sent off in the return as Chelsea H, Wolverhampton Wanderers. 10 changes for them, but the numbers counted. I think the biggest highlight in this one, it wasn't just about the fantastic goal from Gittins and the rest of them, but it was about 7 minutes coming as a substitute, and Liam Delap was sent off. 2 yellow cards, and the manager came out and said he's playing for himself, not the club. Which
I do not know.
Red card FC.
I do not know whether he actually came with a different mission. Maybe the mission to help the opponents. That's Wolverhampton Wanderers overturn all of those goals. Chelsea were leading 3-0 at some point until Tolu Rokodare starts scored, and then other players started scoring.
Well, for a while, that thing came on them.
I don't understand, because when you're actually leading 3-0, it creates a whole lot of confidence in the team. I don't understand what happened to Liam Delap yesterday.
Well, I can
you were brought in the second half.
I can explain what happened to him. He's not been around when the red cards was sharing around.
Okay, so that was his turn.
So I should take my turn.
Oh, that's
definitely
beautiful. Because if the Chelsea coach had a red card at some point, who's Liam Delap?
Well, the quarterfinal fixtures taking center stage as we're set to close. We're going to see Manchester City take on Brentford. And we're talking about Arsenal, Crystal Palace, Cardiff City against Chelsea, a football club, and Newcastle United against Fulham. We got a bit of conversation, and Newcastle shown quite well, beating Tottenham Hotspur.
I'm quite delighted. I'm quite delighted with Newcastle. Many would actually ask why. Since the sale of the man Alexander Isak, they haven't felt that there is a vacuum left. Nick Woltemade have come in very handy for the side. Yeah. Even the departure of Yohan Wissa joining Newcastle haven't really been felt. Like Nick Woltemade, he's been scoring goals left, right, and centre. Scored against last night, and it just looks like they have found another Isak in the team.
Well, I wouldn't want to be another Isak because he might leave at the end of the season.
Well, it's almost.
So just be Walter, not Isak. Well, we continue the conversation as we set to close. In the Ligue 1, it was Desardo stretching off in Paris Saint-Germain draw and with Laurent. Many businessmen really complain about this particular game. A draw, not many people saw it happening. Juventus in winless run following Tudor firing, having a victory. And Harry Kane, Kane scores 2 as Bayern progress in the German Cup. Well, I'm just trying to pick up something before we leave. Because
now, they've been the only side in Europe who's won 14 games this season, the highest in the league season. And at this point of the season, the early stages, 14 games by Vincent Kompany. That's a whole lot for them.
A whole lot for them. Many games have taken in Syria, and the rest of them, we don't have time to go to the stack of that list. But I want to conclude with this. Rivers United and Kudu City, from a Nigerian point of view, should have come first. They played a goalless draw. And I'm just going to complete with the games that are taking place today and the attraction that's taking place today. Well, in the CAF Champions League, it would be Pyramids Football Club against Ethiopian Insurance. Well, Syria, we have Cagliari against Sassuolo, Pisa against Lazio. Copa del Rey, stack of games in that direction. But just trying to pick up a Nigerian game that is for today. Just stay with me, well, while not being able to get it on time. Whichever, David, thank you for being a part of the show.
Well, a pleasure as always. We're looking forward to, yes, more games scheduled for today and tomorrow.
More games scheduled for today and tomorrow. Well, the numbers are stacked for us. Our job is to report what happens, and surely we'll do that tomorrow. Thank you for being a part of it. Tomorrow is another day.